This is the Nathan Ivey Show. Get ready to be engaged. Get ready to be informed. Get ready to be enraged by the man City Beat magazine called a talk radio rebel. And your host, now back to the show.
Now, pirates, draw down your antenna. Come good and show them what you can do.
Choppers, let's chop that up. This is 21st Century Talk, Nathan Ivey style. Good morning. This is the Nathan Ivey Show. Thank you for your patience. I know we're getting started a little bit later than usual this morning. It's all on me. There were no technical difficulties. And again, thank you for your patience. And thank you for joining me. Let me be the first in the media to say good morning to you. Good morning. Welcome back to the last honest place in Cincinnati, Ohio. This is the Nathan Ivey Show. You want truth, you got to go to the internet. You want real, you got to go to the internet. If you want different, unique perspectives, you must go to the internet. And that is where we are. 513-873-7134. Shout out to my new listeners on TuneIn app. Shout out to my listeners on YouTube. Seem to have found a little bit of an audience there on YouTube. The show is updated on YouTube daily. If you're a YouTube viewer, you can sort of listen to the podcast. It got sort of like a stock image. Well, listen, I don't need to describe it. Check it out for yourself, YouTubers. Good morning to my patrons. Thanks for rolling with me for another month. I appreciate you. Again, every dollar goes straight into the show as we build something unique, something that Cincinnati's never seen before. It's the Nathan Ivey Show online. Numerous things to discuss. I've got updates on the Trump-Russia ties. You know there is a connection there. I mean, there's more than smoke. And the Trump administration has been damn good at muddying the waters. Now the media is talking about Susan Rice, and she might have unmasked. She asked to unmask, that is, reveal the identity of people who might have been innocently caught up in some type of intelligence observations or operation. And she wanted to unmask. That means make the names of those individuals available because these individuals happen to be connected to the Trump administration, the Trump campaign. Good morning to you. Today is April 4th, 2017, currently 7:15 a.m. in the Queen City, coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio. But we'll discuss Trump this morning. Trump the rump.
I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
You remember what you said.
I don't remember.
You remember what you
maybe
said.
That's what I said.
No, that is what you said. You remember. Damn lies. All that talk about crooked Hillary, and the one who appears to be really crooked is Donald Trump. All those hearings on Benghazi. I mean, how many hours of cable television time did Fox News devote to Benghazi? They made movies about Benghazi. There's a movie. It's on Epic. That's a cable network that I believe is free if you've got a certain tier of in terms of your package. It's called the Epic. It might even be EPIX. I don't recall. Epics. And they've got a movie on there. I've watched some of it. It's called 13 Out. Wait. Well, there's actually two movies, I believe, about Benghazi. I remember. One was called like 13 Hours Benghazi. And then the other one, and maybe I'm confusing the two, and actually one is the title and the subtitle. I don't know. But help me out, choppers. But the other was called like The Secret Benghazi War. I don't know. I was one of those nights where I'm asleep on the couch and I wake up at 2 a.m, which is typical. And this movie's on. And like it kind of penetrated my dreams. So now I'm dreaming Benghazi. I just couldn't get away from Benghazi. And again, I still don't understand what these Republicans thought that Hillary Clinton was supposed to do. It was just a mess. That was all politically motivated. It came from nothing. I mean, if there was something there, then people would have been charged and went to jail. There was nothing ultimately. You know, there was nothing. There was nothing. Benghazi. And they don't really want to have that much of an investigation into the Trump-Russia ties. You got Rep. Nunes, who basically is trying to kill the investigation as the chairman of the investigation. I mean, this story has all the elements. People will make movies. There will be television series based upon this. Matter of fact, there already is. It's on Netflix. It stars Kevin Spacey. You know what I'm talking about? Did we just elect the president from House of Cards? Ruthless, diabolical, self-serving, willing to sacrifice all others for his greater cause, which is himself. I'll tell you one thing, that if Hillary Clinton would have had so many people in her administration with ties to Russia, if Hillary Clinton would have become president and she would have had like the NSA director or advisor who had to step down because of lies. I mean, it seems like everybody's connected, it seems, to Russia on some level in the Trump administration. If that was a Democrat, the Republicans would be sounding the constitutional crisis alarm. Ring the alarm. They would have been ringing the alarm nonstop. We must discuss. Now, let me give you a heads up for Cincinnati listeners. I'm scheduled to be joined this morning at 8 a.m. by Rob Richardson Jr., and he is a candidate for mayor in the city of Cincinnati. Now, the last time we spoke with Rob, I'm going to blame his phone. I'm going to take the privileges to do that because we had a phone call right afterward, and it sounded great. So his phone was whack. And it's just what it is. I'm not going to blame all of his phone. It is what it is. Sometimes you have a bad connection. But I just felt like I want to get a chance to hear him, right? And actually have a conversation that people can actually hear. So hopefully we'll have a better connection. If we do not, boom, I'm hitting the ripcord. Boom, and I'm parachuting to the surface. I'm not sitting through another hour of that. I'm not doing it, period. And especially after listening to it afterwards. So I keep it real at all times about real things. I keep it real. I am self-aware. So that's at 8 a.m. And so much has happened since our first conversation nearly a month ago. So much has happened. So I've got just a whole new list of questions and things that I would like to probe Mr. Rob Richardson Jr. about. I love to, but I know what you're thinking, choppers. No! All about your damn selves.
Get to the chopper!
No!
Go! Get to the chopper! 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 Go! Get to the chopper!
Yeah, I had to listen to it a few times. I don't like his attitude. I don't like his damn attitude. But I'll get to the choppers anyway. Thanks, Arnold. Took me a few times to really process it. Thank you for listening. This is the Nathan Ivey Show. Again, 513-873-7134. And let me say this. I need to keep running with this and then prosecute when necessary. Open your mind before you open your mouth. Or else a tisk-tisk with the flick of the wrist. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. They need to enforce that. And Black Lion, I am talking about you. You too, John. But let's get to the choppers. Let me back up here. And I see B writes Jamal every morning with this. I know what he means. He means good morning, all. But there's no space between the M and the A. That's Jamal. Deanna writes good morning. Tracy writes hi. He logs in every morning and writes in Jamal. I'm joking with you, B. I'm not joking. I'm just having some fun with you, B. That's your top three for today, Tuesday, April 4th, 2017. Inside the Chop Shop, that's B, who writes Jamal. Deanna writes good morning, and Tracy says hi. That's a beautiful starting three. I'm cool with that. Listen, that says good things about the show to follow. I got to go back to yesterday because there were so many comments. It got heated in the chop shop. The hell? And I went back and listened to the show, and I'm looking at the comments. And I'm about to start posting some of those comments. If you don't want your comments posted, let me know. I'm not sure why anybody would be sensitive about that, but just let me know. But I want to post some of your comments. It'll be some good conversation. Maybe some conversation starters. And damn it, I just want people to know what we're doing. Straight up about it. Pat writes, good morning. Chuck writes, good morning, Nate and the Chop Shop. Tiffany writes, morning. Junior the Truth. What up, Junior? He writes, good morning, family. Let's get it in. Salute. Last night, had a great time. Stepped out for the wifey's birthday. I was super late. But I was late because of daddy duties. So the wife went straight to her like after a party birthday celebration with a lot of friends and colleagues and family. And that means I was responsible for making sure our children were transported properly back to our dwelling, where they were properly nourished. And Junior was nice and dry before I could leave, right? And little Buddha's doing kickball now, right? She's got like a little kickball league. Oh, man. I wish I could be in a kickball league 2 times a week, 90 minutes a day. Damn, I could lose some pounds that way. Damn, kids got it good. Sidebar, man. Tangent. Damn, these children have it good. Man. Back in the day when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore. But sometimes I sit and wish I was a kid again. Don't you? Damn, little Buddha's got it good. She do. She got a great room. She got a great dad, great mom, great little brother. Her father loves her independence and allows her to be her own person. I just want her to play. She's in a kickball league, man. Damn, I want to do kickball. Let's start a kickball league. The summertime, we can get moving. I'm down with that. But anyway, so she's doing a kickball league, and they have like home and away games in her after school program. And so it was supposed to be a home game yesterday. It ended up being an away game. So, I'm thinking I'll swoop her up, get back to the house, make sure I'm looking good for the wifey. And I'm delayed nearly an hour. It's like 45 minutes because it turned out to be an away game. And if you remember yesterday about 4 or 5 o'clock, it was raining. 3 o'clock, it was raining. It was raining. Uber drivers were cleaning up yesterday. I know you were. Any Uber drivers in the house? Tell me all about your treasure. Woo! Incredible surges yesterday. And, all day long, people were going back and forth. And then when it started to rain, I'm sure. See, I understand how these things work. I'm sure that the surcharges went up as people were leaving bars. I mean, you might not have been doing it yesterday, but there were people out all day chilling in red and white. In red and white all day long, sneakers. Cats that spent all day, every day in suits was in jerseys yesterday. And those jerseys are politically motivated. Because I noticed, man, a lot of black people, when they had on Reds jerseys, almost always, I say like 99%, they always had a person of color. Almost always. Aroldis Chapman and the other fellas. Don't ask me to keep up with these names. Names? You talking about names? And I noticed that. Like the black people that had on Reds jerseys, they had on the jerseys of black players. I saw a lot of Ken Griffey Jr. Ken Griffey Jr. is like a safe, politically safe, like jersey, right? You're not losing any friends or making no enemies, okay? All right? By rocking the Ken Griffey Jr. Nothing wrong with that. Pete Rose, could be a conversation starter. You might hear some whisperings. Gambler, liar, who knows? I mean, there's some players that are very neutral. No problem with rocking those jerseys. And again, Ken Griffey Jr. is a good, safe bet. Hall of Famer. He never really had any major scandals. Black guy. So if you're black, you can rock him. If you're white and you're rocking a Ken Griffey Jr. jersey, it's like, oh, it's a cool white dude. This is a cool white dude, right? I observe all things. So stepped out with the wife. He got there like incredibly late because Junior was just having a fit. It's just one of those things. So check it. I get there to pick her up at about 6 o'clock. Well, it was before 6 o'clock. It was like 5:45. She's not there. Her bus doesn't arrive until an hour later. Wife's birthday. I got Junior. Now, if you know anything about kids, once you pick them up from daycare center, you got about 10 minutes, 15 minutes tops car time to get them cleaned up and get some food in their mouths, man. Or else you got a problem on your hands. You got a major problem in your hands. And, you know, so at first we went inside, we were waiting patiently, and then Junior started to act up. I mean, not act up. Junior was being Junior. They've got a little place over there at her after-school program where you can, like, sit. They've got, like, two sofas facing one another. And in the middle, they've got, like, a round, it's like an end table, but it's like a middle table, right? And I'd say it's about 36 inches tall. And this boy climbs on top of it, just jumps off. Whee! Just jumps off. I'm like, I had to grab him. Barely grabbed him with one arm and saved him from losing his limbs. He's just jumping off his stuff now. He's 2 years old. And I'm just trying to contain him because then I realized that his diaper was wet. He's soiled. I mean, he's just wet. So he's not soiled. He's just wet, but it's like drenched. And I'm like mad at the daycare folks because I'm thinking, wait a minute. How could his diaper have gotten this drenched in the short time that I've been with him? So that's a future conversation. Why am I picking up my son and he's wet? The hell is wrong with you? Anyway, at some point, he just throws a complete fit. Just right there in the daycare center. But see, I'm an OG in this right now, so I don't even bust a sweat. I'm like, come on, Junior. He's on the ground. He wanted to go into the gymnasium, but I knew if I let him go in the gymnasium, he would have ran all the way through the gymnasium. I would have had to chase him. I didn't feel like chasing this boy. He's 2. You know? And so I pick him up and I take him out in the car. He wasn't having that. Oh, no, he wants to stay inside the facility. And he starts saying his sister's name, Sissy. That's what he calls her, his little nickname, Sissy. Sis, no, we're not leaving, Sissy. We're coming back. I get him in the car. This boy cries for the entire time. It was 30 minutes in the car. Me and Junior. He's crying, and I'm just looking at my phone. And I'm like, you okay, dude? What's going on? I mean, he's crying so hard that I think he's injured himself. And I'm thinking, damn, did you injure yourself? You were jumping off of this damn end table. And I check him. He's not injured. He just throws a fit. So I let him. Old school father. I'd let him. Okay. You cool, dude? Look back every once in a while. You right? You straight? He's ee. So he's got his coat on. I'm thinking he's hot. So I unzip his coat, let the window down. And then people who are driving up and anywhere near me hear a baby. I see people walking around. They hear a baby screaming and they're looking around like it's a baby screaming. And then they see me like, oh, okay. You having one of those moments. I'm like, yeah. Parents understand. They know. OG parents know. But I was finally able to get Super Little Buddha, get him home. And then, of course, I had to take care of Junior, make sure he's dry, make sure he's cool, make sure they're fed. And then I left him with my sister, and I was out. And I finally got to the party and had a great time. Oh, man, I had a great time. And it was all about celebrating the wifey. She had a beautiful, I'm not sure if she wants me to tell her age. She doesn't say she's sensitive, but when you say stuff on the air, then she could be sensitive. So I don't know. Should I say it? I don't know. Well, let me test it. Hold on. Grapes! Oh, let me tell her headphones on so she might be saying something. Grapes! I don't hear her, so yeah, I'll tell you after the break. Damn it. Nathan Ivey. This is the Nathan Ivey Show. Also updates on the Cameo nightclub shooting. I'm not sure what's happened within the last 12 hours, but the last time I checked, it was being reported that one of the suspects who was shot may not live through his injuries. or may succumb to his injuries. Wow, that's a deep revelation there. Also, I want to take a deeper look at what's been happening in some of the politics with the Cameo nightclub shooting. What will be and is there going to be a long-term effect to the black club owner? I'm live, I'm local, and I'm vocal. This is the Nathan Ivey Show, and we'll be right back.
Don't ever play yourself. Life is like school. You will be tested, so pass it.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at GetSchooled.com.
Stay focused. Now that's a major key alert.
Brought to you by Get Schooled and the Ad Council.
When is the best time to talk to your family about staying in touch during a disaster? When floodwaters reach your door? When wildfires are engulfing the edge of your neighborhood? Or an earthquake is destroying buildings? When a tornado is tearing through town? Or a hurricane strikes? Or is the best time perhaps today? During a disaster, you may not be able to stay in touch with your family or friends as easily as you think. And it's not always as simple as using your cell phone. That's why now is the time to take action. Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
With the Bloomberg Urban Report, I'm Donna Wilson. Thousands of workers fighting for a $15 an hour wage and union rights will join the movement for Black Lives in a 24-city protest today, April 4th, the 49th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King's assassination and the 50th anniversary of the civil rights icon's historic Beyond Vietnam speech. The coast-to-coast protest will consist of thousands of workers, national civil rights leaders, and politicians. Well, ratings agency Standard & Poor's has downgraded South Africa's credit grade to junk status. The action is in response to South Africa's president's firing of his finance minister. The downgrade could be a further blow to South Africa's economy, which is growing at the slowest pace since 2009 in dealing with 27% unemployment.
Hey, remember a couple of years ago when we thought we'd save some money with do-it-yourself window coverings?
Unfortunately, yes. I measured.
I ordered.
We both installed. What a disaster.
All the way around. And we're pretty good at do-it-yourself. But obviously, window coverings really call for a pro.
A pro from Budget Blinds.
They're the do-it-for-me people. They bring the store to you, come in and measure, then install it all.
And that style and service for every budget thing they talk about? Turns out it's for real.
Right. Budget Blinds has no surprises pricing and a no questions asked warranty. The best in the business.
That's a no-brainer.
And this spring, you could get up to $500 off on Signature Series window coverings.
Save money and your dignity. Call 855-BUDGET-BLINDS.
Or go online to budgetblinds.com.
855-BUDGET-BLINDS or budgetblinds.com. Forget do-it-yourself.
Get an expert to do it for you at a price that fits your budget. Call 855-BUDGET-BLINDS now.
Offer good on selected products at participating independently owned and operated franchises only. Some restrictions may apply. Ask for details.
That's your Bloomberg Urban Report. I'm Donna Wilson.
The average citizen can't take off work to attend a Cincinnati City Council meeting at 2 p.m. Actually, the average citizen has never even spoken with a Cincinnati City Council member. I'm going to change that. My name is Tamaya Denard, and I'm running for Cincinnati City Council to make your government more accessible to you. We should change City Council meetings to 6 p.m. so they're easier to attend. We should have a City Council meeting in all 52 neighborhoods. And we should explore changing our charter to stagger our elections. That way, you hear from council members more than once every 4 years. Government was designed to best serve its people. It's time we made City Hall more accessible to regular folks like you and me, and not just campaign donors. To find out more, visit TamayaDenard.com. When elected, I'm going to fight for you.
We asked kids what it...
This is the Nathan Ivey Show.
Get ready to be engaged. Get ready to be informed. Get ready to be enlightened. Get ready to be enraged by the man City Beat Magazine called a talk radio rebel. And your host. Now back to the show.
Well, you know, I love to share the updates for the show. And so yesterday, I was able to close the deal on yet another advertiser for the show, possibly a sponsor in the near future. You never know. And very happy to have them on board with the Nathan Ivey Show. And very humbled and pleased that people, you know, they see the future. They see the value in connecting with this platform, with this particular show. And you'll start hearing the ads tomorrow. You'll hear me read the ads tomorrow, kind of in and out of the break. And again, one way to support the show is to support the sponsors and advertisers of the Nathan Ivey Show. And I see a brighter future. In 1 year, we may look back and be like, wow, anything can happen in America. And again, if I have your support, I really believe that anything is possible. But I want to give you a heads up. Matter of fact, I've got a meeting later on today, as a matter of fact. Sort of like, well, almost afternoonish, to discuss the possibility of bringing on a new sponsor and or advertiser. So, you know, to this point, you know, I am seeing some growth, and I'm pleased about that. But, of course, these are just the first steps that we take in this new realm within the city of Cincinnati. And again, you know, I want to share the experience with you from day one. Again, I remember the first time we turned the microphone on over a year ago with an entirely different website. At that point, I was using what I would call a vanity site. The site really wasn't built for podcasts at all, and really couldn't handle the bandwidth. Remember this? Had to shut it down. And just was releasing the show straight from Facebook as I updated the website. I needed something that could perform, quite honestly, and handle the kind of downloads and you know, traffic that I need, quite honestly, So, man, took you on the road with me, and I want to take you on the road with me wherever I go. That was fun. That was fun. Up to Cleveland for the RNC. That was a lot of fun. And it took you took you behind all the doors, behind full access, as much access as anyone in the media had. You couldn't have got any closer. Well, I could have gotten closer had I gotten there earlier, but couldn't have gotten any closer to Donald Trump that night. And it just seems like, wow, it seems like a long time ago. And now looking back, I realize just how historic that was. The RNC in Cleveland, Ohio will go down as historic or dubious. But it will not be forgotten. And I still remember the feeling talking with people. It was almost like an ethnographic study. You know what that means? That means, and again, if I'm wrong about this, set me straight. That means that let's say you want to research a particular topic. Let's say you want to research a particular culture. Well, if you're going to do an ethnographic study, that means you go to live with those individuals. You become a part of that culture. You eat the food. You live in the dwellings. Okay. You usurp yourself in that culture. You fully immerse yourself. Okay. All the way in. Eyes, close your eyes. You go all the way in. Hold your breath for as long as you can to observe the culture. And I had a similar experience. I'm telling you, it was wild. I'm at the RNC, and you can imagine what that was like in terms of the people I was talking with. And I never had any bad conversations. I mean, you know, I've seen some people on the front line here or there. But it was fun to act like a conservative on some levels. People love me. They love me. Hey, here's a black guy. Right? They loved me. Had no idea that I was Nathan Ivey, LMC from Cincinnati. They had no idea. It was lovely. I'm writing about it. And I'm going to share it with you very, very soon. Very, very soon. But it was very interesting. And now you see the rise of a whole new type of politician. He's not a politician. He is a politician. And we're hearing all these conversations about Russia. And is it inconceivable to believe that someone within the Trump administration seized upon an opportunity to work with an adversary, the Russians, to get power? Yes, it is. As I told you, human beings are very simple creatures. And some of us have higher interests and some of us don't. And there are some human beings that if they perceive a come up, if they perceive an opportunity to get power or status or notoriety, they will do anything to get it. Anything. People have been murdered for less. People have been viciously murdered throughout the annals of human history for less. So don't think for 1 second that it's beyond the idea that good old fashioned red blooded Americans, they love apple pie. They love America. And when they got a chance to collude because they thought it might help them, they took it. I would call that a damn traitor. That's what I would call them. But what would you call them? 513-873-7134. What would you call those individuals? And I want to give you more specifics, though. But first, very interesting. Here it is, a very not so good. A not so good event, okay? And that is anniversary, should I say, a not so good anniversary, and that is the assassination of Martin Luther King. You know, I always thought that as a history, we just kind of glossed over the assassination of Martin Luther King. As I got older, and this is before I became a man, but I was in my teenage years, and as I became an older teenager, 17, 18, I started to become more self-aware. I started to really question the status quo. I mean, you know, what you hear from me is the evolution that started many years ago. And a lot of it had to do with my liberal university, not a lot of it, but some of it had to do with my liberal university upbringing and meeting different people and hearing different opinions and realizing that there's a lot of different ways that people look at things. But I've never thought that we spend enough time really analyzing and letting it really sink in, the fact that Martin Luther King was assassinated. I mean, we say it, and it's been said so much that I don't even think that we understand the impact of it. I mean, so let me slow this down. You're talking about the preeminent civil rights leader of his time. A man that before his death was uniting blacks and whites. This is one thing I've always held on to about Martin Luther King. I think he was a visionary in the sense that what he realized is that it's really not about black and white. It's really about haves and have-nots. And we all know the history. Before his death, he was working on a poor people's campaign, an economic revolution, a changing of the dynamics, the resource dynamics in this country, which is still a problem. Excellent. Which is still a problem. It is still very much a problem. The biggest problem that we have right now in our country is the huge inequities of wealth. That is a huge problem because when people have more, they can do for themselves. It's a huge problem. But I think that we've got a lot of greedy people in this country. A lot of greedy people, a lot of greed, even in the city, a lot of greed. But April 4th, 1968, Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. And I had the privilege many years ago of speaking with a man who was very close to the King family and even represented Coretta Scott King and the King family in court back in the 90s. And this man who was now living in London, by the way, I spoke with him a couple times over the year, maybe 3 times. And he has a series of books. And his name was first brought to me by a listener. A listener sent me a book to the radio station like, Nate, check this out. And I believe that listener, we're still Facebook friends. I'm not sure if he listens or not. And I remember I got the book and it was titled An Active State. And it's got this crazy cute picture of Martin Luther King Jr. and his wife, Coretta Scott King. And it seems like they were having some fun. And it wasn't, the reason why I like the image is, I don't know. It just seemed like it was a little departure from all the other images that I've seen of them. And I believe they might have been marching, though, but it just seems like a different image. He's got shades on, and she looks like she's dressed in her Sunday best. And that's back when people gave a damn about how they looked. I'm not saying they don't today, but it was a different standard back then. But anyway, an assassin killed this man. And I don't believe the cover story. I don't believe that the man who they pointed it to, I believe, was a patsy. I believe that he was assassinated and there was a plot against him. And I would not be surprised if history bears eventually, if it hasn't already, that there was some collusion with forces within our government. Because people were afraid of Martin Luther King. Everybody loves him now, but there was back in the day, you had black folks who was like, man, don't be yanking these chains. Be yanking these chains. Master gonna come in here and whip us. Don't yank them chains, Martin Luther King. But then, of course, after his death, we realized that Martin Luther King Jr. was a visionary. And, I've called out Obama over the years because how dare you on one hand embrace Dr. King and say you want to believe and govern with his principles, but then you're dropping bombs on other people's children. I don't get it. But that is deep. If you Google assassination MLK, a series of questions will come up. One reads, why did Martin Luther King get assassinated? See, that should be the question that every single teacher that's doing any kind of project on Martin Luther King, they should be asking that question. Why did Martin Luther King Jr. get assassinated? Why was he assassinated? Was he assassinated because he was up on the N-word with a suit on? Why was he assassinated? That's a damn good question. I've got my theories. I'm sure you have your theories. But I think there should be an exploration into what the why was. And damn, what would America be like? Would it be any different had Martin Luther King Jr. not been assassinated? Would it be any different on any level? Will one man have made a difference? Something to consider. 513-873-7134. Who really killed Martin Luther King? They claimed that it was James Earl Ray. He was a confirmed racist and a criminal. And it was James Earl Ray. Really? Could have been. Were other people involved? And the book, An Active State, is actually part of a series of books. And if you maybe you like to go online, or you might even go, see, these days you can even download books on your phone and download them for a short time from the public library. You might even be able to do that. You can actually download the books right now. If you've got it set up, you got a public library card. At least I know it's like that in the city of Cincinnati. And you can download the books. I mean, somebody was just telling me this yesterday. I didn't know that. So you could literally download the books and read them on your phone. And the author of the books his name is William Pepper. And I'll never forget, he came on the show via phone, and I asked him, through his extensive investigations, who really killed Martin Luther King? And the man told me it was a sniper who was affiliated with the U.S. military. That's what he told me. He even said the name. I don't recall it now. He even told me the individual's name. And a lot of people forget that there was a big case about this in the 90s. This is just glossed over. I mean, we spend more time talking about the OJ case than we do talking about the fact that there was actually a trial in which a American jury found that James Earl Ray was probably a patsy and that there was a larger conspiracy to kill Martin Luther King Jr. These are facts. This is not hyperbole. These are all facts. But it's amazing how it's completely covered up. These are facts, and most people don't even know that. They have no idea. This is real life. So when people say that Dr. Martin Luther King was the victim of a governmental plot, well, an American jury at least found that it was probably more to it than just James Earl Ray. But again, we spend more time talking about, revisiting, hell, there's movies about it, the O.J. Simpson trial, than we do what should have been the trial of the century, and that is trying to get to the bottom of who killed the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Isn't that deep? I think so. 513-873-7134. But I know what you're thinking. Damn, Arnold.
Go! Get to the chopper!
I'm going to have to change that up. You're starting to irritate me. Avery writes good morning. Shauna writes good morning. Shannon writes good morning. Rhonda writes good morning, beautiful people in the chop shop. I got to catch up here. I'm like an hour behind. Kiki writes great rises, Mr. Ivy and the choppers. And then I'm going to count them backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 lips. Vane writes, good morning, choppers. Can someone tell ESPN that we need more Maria Taylor and L. Duncan? Pan writes, good morning, all. Sluggo writes, good morning, everyone. Esquad affiliate salute. Casey writes, good morning, Nathan and the choppers. Dale writes, good morning, kings and queens by nature. I like that. Kelly writes, good morning, Nathan. Deshauna writes, good morning. Lawrence writes, good morning. Lawrence, I will call you, man, so we can hook up this week. And what's up, Charles? How you doing, sir? Good to see you. Appreciate your support. He writes, good morning. Angela writes, good morning. Cruther writes, morning, choppers. Mike writes, good morning, fam. Brian writes, morning, Nate. You were right about Eric Prince, Blackwater. He's connected as well to Russia. That's right. That's recent allegations I'll share with you this morning. Miss D writes, greetings. Dale writes, I think another one is called Benghazi attack. I don't know if it's in any correlation. I mean, they went overboard with Benghazi. They even made movies about it. Will there be any movies about the Russian Trump ties? To me, it's pretty clear because I can kind of read between the lines here. Somebody in the Russia in the Trump campaign was working with the Russians. Period. There it is. It needs to be said, and there I said it. Somebody needs to say it. Now, do I have evidence? Hardcore evidence? No, but damn, it looks bad. Could you imagine if this was Barack Obama working with the Russians? They might have impeached his ass. I mean, there could have been they might have posseed up, literally, with pitchforks, shotguns, torches. Why do you have torches? For the effect. Torches. And they would have stormed to the Capitol and dragged him and his wife out. But when it's Trump, it's like, well, we don't know if there's ties. It could be ties. Couldn't be ties. Let's go to the phones. Good morning, caller. How are you?
Big Nate, what's happening?
What up with you, man? The King?
Yes, sir.
Good morning to you. What's on your mind?
Man, I'm in my feelings, man.
Why?
Man, because I'm watching Netflix, right? And I come across a movie with Lorenz Tate, man. He got to make out with Megan Good 2 times, man.
You talking about Deuces?
Yeah, man. I'm like, oh, man, what's next,
She
man?
was looking yummy in that movie.
I was highly upset, man, but it's all good, man. I just want to say, man, you know, I had a nice weekend, man. I got invited to a little get-together, man. I was some tail and some spades, man. And I'm just tired of the women thinking they running something when they playing spades and they use the jokers, man. You know, come on, ladies. You know, if you really think you that cold in spades, you know, play without the jokers. You know.
Play without the jokers. That's your advice this morning?
please stop talking all that mess over the table. You know, talking about you this, you that, but, you know, there's jokers in the game. Like, so, you know, that's my word for the day, man. I'm just checking in. That just been on my mind. You know, Lorenz Tate making out with Megan Good twice in a movie. I'm like, oh, you know, and these women using the jokers playing spades thinking they the Kismet, man. So, I Have a good day, Nate.
Hey,
I'll
listen,
be
man.
checking in with you on the choppers.
Most def, man. Take
Sooner
it
or
easy.
later.
Most def, that's Akeem with his pearls of wisdom. I appreciate it. Akeem's pearls of wisdom. And he's always welcome to call in with his little pearls of wisdom. I appreciate it. 513-873-7134. I can tell that he's pondering the great issues facing the universe. I can see he is pondering big things this morning, as he should be. Ladies, stop using the jokers. And, Lorenz, tell you, that's just acting. She's married, though, bro. She's married. Tanika writes, good morning, Nate and the Choppers. Good morning to you, Tanika. Brian writes, 13 hours, pretty good movie. Pissed me off, though. Yeah, that movie will piss you off. And that's what it's designed to do. That was straight propaganda. I mean, that was straight anti-Clinton, anti-Democrat propaganda. Jericho writes, good morning. Because I've seen it. They're like, man, we need backup. Where's our backup? I mean, it makes the people... I love you too. It makes the people who make the decisions look corrupt. It makes them look like they're asleep at the wheel and they don't care about the men, the grunts on the ground with the guns in their hands. And the entire time I'm watching and I'm not allowing myself to get swept up with it because I know what they're trying to do. Jericho writes, good morning. Dale writes, the other alleged suspect in the Cameo shooting has passed away early this morning. I still want to know how he became a suspect and he wasn't even questioned. Well, maybe he was a suspect because somebody identified him. He could have been a suspect because somebody else who was picked up as a suspect put his name out there. But thank you for that update. That's it's sad. It's very, very sad. And it's sad that somebody could get into a beef. I heard it started in a certain neighborhood, we'll say Madisonville. And then it goes to the club. I don't understand why you don't just leave it in Madisonville. Or even if you take it into the club, when it gets to the point where now you got weapons. And see, my question is, if these people didn't have weapons, the individuals involved, would they even have started a confrontation inside the club? Probably not. But when you get that gun in your pocket, when you got that weapon, you feel like you're going to talk a little louder. See, some men are like that. Some men will talk a little louder, put their chest out a little bit more because they feel like if something happened, boom, I'm going to win. It's deep. Gun violence is a big issue right now in the city because it's not just the Cameo nightclub shooting, but you also have what appears to be a murder over in Walnut Hills. Young boy gets struck by a car. Was the man driving a car on heroin? Was he impaired in some way? Was it the young boy's fault? Whatever happened is an argument starts. This man ends up getting shot. And we listened to the 911 tape yesterday. The man is talking to his son and family members and doesn't know that he's dialed 911. Damn, Gilligan. Damn, Gilligan, you don't know that the police are listening? Way to go. Super thug, way to go. And again, I want to pick back on that conversation because you remember yesterday in the audio clip, he's like, yeah, I'm being a father. Is that being a father? I don't know. But again, I'm scheduled to be joined by Rob Richardson Jr. this morning. I've got a call on the line, and let's go straight to the call. Good morning, caller. How are you?
It is Rob Richardson. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, and you sounded great, man.
All right, good. Well, we got a landline this time.
There it is. Rob Richardson Jr., and he's running for mayor in the city of Cincinnati. So let's talk about the Cameo shooting, man. I know you tweeted something.
Yes.
And everybody's talking about Donald Trump, and here you are tweeting stuff, Rob. Did you think, like, wait a minute?
Oh, God.
Did you think, like, wait a minute, people are going to make connection between me and Trump with just tweeting stuff? Did that cross your mind?
Yeah, we got a lot of common. We got the same hair and everything, brother. So, yeah. No, look. So, when we sent out that tweet, I want to make it very clear that I actually had a lot of information at that point. And you have to remember, first of all, Cameo had a history And previously, there had been a shooting inside the club. I think that's very important. There had also been other instances out around the club. But here's the thing. This is what we did know. We know that people got into the club with guns and multiple guns got in. And that was preventable. And so that fact alone, I said that the place they should turn in their license, they should shut it down, and that did happen the next day. And that would go for any business. I actually didn't know that it was a black-owned business, but it wouldn't have changed my answer. I looked at it from the point of view of if people's family was there and your family was exposed, I ask people the same question every time people ride me about the question. Would you want your family members going there? The answer is always no. So why would you want to expose others? And my family members go to that club quite a bit, and they were actually outside. Many of my cousins when shots were fired. So, that was my first thought when I heard about that happening, and I knew about other problems within that venue. So you are responsible as any owner of any venue for making sure your patrons are kept safe. That didn't happen.
So you're saying
so you have to be held accountable.
So when you put the tweet out, you're saying you had some information, but you didn't know it was a black-owned establishment.
No, I didn't. But it wouldn't have changed my answer either, though.
It wouldn't change it. So looking back, would you regret putting it out there? Because here's why I say that. Because part of the fallout of this could be, and people are talking about this inside the city, I know you've heard this, is that now we got this black entrepreneur who's got other business interests. Will your tweet further politicize and potentially harm those other business interests? I mean, is somebody on city council going to pick up on your tweet and then run with it? Because there's forces, there's people that's got that mentality on council. Is that something that crossed your mind? Are you concerned about that? Do you think about that at all?
No, not at all, because it's not about, I'm a big supporter of black business, and it's not, at the end of the day, what matters is that 17 people were shot, 2 are dead now, and this is not about this is not about black business in this particular instance. This is about making sure that when our young people and kids go to places like this, they have to be safe. Period. So I'm switching the policy. It's not, and we know that people are going to go to play. They're going to go to venues. They're going to go to nightclubs. Nobody's trying to stop that. We want that to happen, but they need to be safe in doing so. So I want to switch and talk about policy. So what I did is I said we need to adopt a policy. So if you're a venue, it's not necessarily a nightclub. It can be a gas station. It could be any venue, and all the officers can tell you where the hot spots are, where an altercation breaks out and then it later leads to a shooting. There's an initiative called Project Greenlight within the city of Detroit that's working very well. And what it does is it says that you, as the owner of any of these venues, if you have a lot of incidents, and Cameo would have fit this profile, you have to be able, you have to pay for your security footage outside, and police are going to have access to it. And that has actually been able to help prevent a lot of incidents from happening in the future. Now, we need to learn from policy. It's not about one incident. It's about making sure we don't repeat this again if we can find better ways to prevent shootings. That's how I look at this. It's not about this one person. And I think people made it personalized. It's about what happened, and my tweet is not going to be what actually changes anything. It's likely that, there's going to be some accountability for what happened to those families. I mean, that has nothing to do with my tweet.
Well, only in the sense that, like I said, there are people who could use your tweet and use that for their own purposes. Like what I'm saying, we live in Cincinnati, let's be real here. There's people who would run on safety and use what happened at Cameo nightclub. And I'm not suggesting this is you. I'm actually thinking of other folks on city, somebody
I know
on city
you're
council.
Talking about.
And I'm concerned that, because, there's a hearing later on this month. I'm concerned that some folks might politicize this for their own personal gains and therefore harm somebody.
I'm sure, look, I think people are going to, there are going to be some people that are going to use that for whatever reason. Here's the bottom line. I think we have to figure out how we actually move forward to keep our young people safe and come up with good policy. And somebody asked me about it, I'll make sure that my position is clear. I think my position was very clear, and it wasn't confusing, is that if you have repeat incidents at a place and there's shootings inside your club, I mean, this wasn't This wasn't a complicated situation in terms of what should have happened. People got in that should not have gotten in with guns. That was preventable. I mean, I don't know what the argument is.
I get you. But I've heard other people say things like, "Oh, when it's a black establishment and there's a shooting, the first thing they want to do is shut it down."
Yeah,
and
but here's the thing.
I don't know if that's fair or not. I've heard it because what I've heard people say is like, listen, if there's a shooting inside a bank, they don't shut the bank. If there's a shooting on a university, they don't close the university. They just put reforms in place and business keeps going.
Yep, and that's exactly what should happen. However, if you know that people are going to come inside your area with guns, this is different because this was foreseeable. Okay, there's been a shooting inside the club before. That's an important point. It's been one before, and multiple people got in with guns. That sometimes people might carry guns in, and they got in because they were let in. There is wanding and there is protocol, but multiple people got in. There's something wrong with your protocol, and that has to be fixed. That's exactly what I'm saying. But you do have to shut down your venue. You do have to have reform. So even if you are any business and you expose people to danger, you're going to be held accountable.
I'm speaking with Rob Richardson.
That's true if you're black or white.
I'm speaking with Rob.
P&G sold a bunch of products that were toxic to women. They had to shut down that product, and they had to pay billions of dollars for it. That's what happens when you expose people. That's how that works.
Yeah, but if there's two shootings on, let's say, the University of Cincinnati's campus, nobody's going to say close the campus. They're going to say let's put some reforms in place.
That's not the same thing. Hold on.
How is it different?
You're talking about a venue that has shootings inside of it that people got in with, and people are going to come with guns sometimes, and some of your security profile let them in because they paid more to get in. That's what happened. That's a big difference from what you say. We're an open campus. It's not like a random thing happened and someone went around and did a mass shooting. That's not what happened. People got in with guns. That's very different protocol.
Yeah, but there have been mass shootings on other campuses. They never close a campus.
It's not a mass shooting, though. This wasn't a mass shooting. These were people with guns that came in and that were allowed in.
Yeah, but mass people got shot.
Yes, but that was preventable with the right protocol. Period. Most of those things you're talking about are not preventable. This was. That's my point.
Okay, so you're saying you believe it's preventable, and since they didn't follow these rules that if you just follow logic could have made it more difficult, if not impossible, to get guns in there, then it never would have happened. And that's what you base your tweet upon. Okay, I feel that. But, I got to ask the questions, though. Speaking of Rob Richardson Jr., he's running for mayor. So what's it feel?
And I want to put a point. Like, we put so much point about people going to this nightclub and not about the point that people were shot unnecessarily. Like, and that was people's family members. I'm sure you have a different view of it.
Well, actually, I did have a family member that was just like you in the parking lot. So I am close to it, just to be all the way real about it. So I think you have that view as no one's saying to shut down every venue, but you have to be held accountable and make sure you have the protocol in place, period, to protect people. You have to. So is your policy then, let's say you've got a venue that's never had any issues and somebody gets a gun in. First time there's a shooting, people get injured. That club should be shut down.
Nope, I didn't say that. I said if you have repeat incidents, this is what I said, which is the case here.
So repeat shootings.
Repeat shootings. And I didn't say it would be shut down. I said what you have to do is that you'd have to enable security footage that our officers would have the ability to monitor at your cost. That's what I said.
Okay. And that's just the cost of doing business. That way, if there's a crime or something, people can ascertain it. I get it. I can understand that. Speaking with Rob Richardson Jr., he is a candidate for mayor in the city of Cincinnati, and the primary is May 2nd, and that's less than a month away. How does it feel to be less than a month away from the primary running for mayor?
It feels, I told everyone this has been really a humbling experience, getting to know people and getting to know more people in the city. As I said, as I like to say, politics didn't bring me to the community. The community brought me to politics. I've been in service for a long time, but running for office is definitely a different experience. So look, we're ready. We feel positive that our message of trying to connect all Cincinnatians and making sure that we're fighting for systemic reform is starting to penetrate. And we're actually trying to move the ball forward. I think the difference between myself and certainly the mayor is that the mayor he's a broker in small transactions. He doesn't really have a big vision, and I think the council member has done a. He certainly argues with him a lot, but she's voted for every final budget and has voted with him 98% of the time. So she hasn't really articulated or brought any different vision, but she certainly argues with him a lot.
Again, my guest is Rob Richardson Jr. So, the last time I saw you, it was at the forum over at the Community Action Agency. Here's my question. What's the prep like before a forum of that nature? And then afterward, do you break it down with your team? Do you videotape it? Do you go over your performance? Do you record some of it? So what's that process like? I'm just curious.
I think you do all of the above. You have to, make sure that you can anticipate questions that might be asked. You make sure that you articulate your vision, and then you try to anticipate any attacks that others might say. So I think and then you of course look at the material if you have it, and you go back and review. So it's all of the above, really.
Do you try to recreate the forum before the forum? I mean, I've seen these kind of things in the media before. I'm just curious to see if that's how it actually works.
I mean, yeah. I think everybody's is different, but we certainly go through. At least I do, and I assume that my opponents will be very, very prepared, and so I try to make sure that I'm prepared. And I think each one of these moments are going to be an opportunity for folks to see what real vision you have. And I can just say this: like when it comes to actual policies that's actually going to move things forward. I think I'm the only one that's laid out a vision. In particular, let's talk about affordable housing, right? Neither one of the incumbents have really looked at a real policy for making sure that we have inclusive housing. So what we've seen happen in Over the Rhine, and now we're going to see happen in East Walnut Hills, unless I'm the mayor, is that everyone who is high income is going to go into the areas, and everyone else who's low to moderate income will actually get pushed out. A lot of those folks are, of course, African American. So unless you mandate that developers have to have affordable housing in what they do, we're going to see gentrification continue, and it's accelerated under both of these incumbents, and neither one supports a real policy for affordable housing. I think that's very important for people to know, because if you're talking about moving people out of poverty and giving them opportunities, and you're not talking about housing, you're just talking. So people can talk about my position on one thing or another, but I can tell you I'm the same in the light as I am in the dark. I don't do different positions. I fight hard. I'm going to be an advocate, and that's who I am, and that's who I've always been.
So, it sounds like holding developers accountable would be a part of your plan.
Absolutely, it would be. It's central to my plan.
And why isn't that happening now? And is it a power dynamic? Do developers hold some type of card? And why wouldn't whatever forces they exert over the current administration, why wouldn't that be the same for your administration?
Well, first of all, I'm not beholden to developers. So I have my whole career is not dependent on politics. I think that's a big difference between myself and the other two. The mayor's been doing it since he was 20, and certainly the council member's been there for 6 years. And developers do have a lot of sway. I don't have to do this as a career, and so I'm not necessarily concerned that a developer is going to say that a developer is going to want something to happen. I'm going to work with them. I'm pro-development, but we're going to make sure that we can do it in an inclusive manner. I think it hasn't happened because there's been no leadership, Nathan. Just to keep it simple, it takes courage to be able to do that. You're going to have to make developers do things they don't want to do. And people don't want to challenge the developers. They do have some money, and it requires you to take a stand. And you got folks that don't really care about the issue enough. They just don't have leadership. That's all.
So basically, you're saying the current administration doesn't have the backbone to stand up to the developers to demand the kind of housing that we really need that's fair for everybody.
I want to be clear. I think it's Cranley and Ms. Simpson.
And Ms. Simpson.
Because neither one has done that. He hasn't sponsored one ordinance dealing with affordable housing. Not one.
All right. And what would your first ordinance be around that issue of affordable housing?
So the first thing I would do, I would implement a concept called inclusionary zoning. And what this does is it requires developers, as they get money from us, because every development is subsidized in some way or another, particularly big developments. As they do any of these big, large developments, they would have to have, say, 20% of it set aside for affordable housing for people that have lived in the area for years. That can be done. It's done in other cities across the country, but it's not being done at all here. If you look at, do you know where the old School of Creative and Performing Arts was, Nathan?
I sure do. I spent many years there.
Yeah, so right there's a new luxury apartments being built. Not a single affordable housing unit is being built there. One of my volunteers, his grandmother used to go there, and now she couldn't afford to be in one of those apartments. There will probably be no one who is even middle income that's going to be allowed there. And that's going to happen all across the city unless you have policy. So that's the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do.
Let me point out something. You said 20% would be your threshold.
Yes,
why 20%? Where'd you get that number from? Why not 40%?
So there's other cities that have done this. The model comes out of a city in Montgomery County, Maryland, right? And what they've seen with inclusionary zoning policy is that low to moderate income families that live in these areas that have all the opportunities, have all the best schools, have all the best transportation, their kids do, and those do just as well as the high income kids because they have access to the same resources. So as we're seeing areas grow, like over the Rhine is going to continue to grow. There's going to continue to be more development, more opportunities, more jobs. But if we're not allowed to participate in that, we're not going to share in that growth. And that's what's going to happen if you elect either person running, because they're not talking about this policy at all. It's never been a policy that they fought for.
I'm speaking with Rob Richardson, Jr. Carolyn writes, what are your thoughts on 3CDC and how they conduct business?
Okay. So initially 3CDC was supposed to be there to stabilize the market, to help, create more development. They did that. I think now they become a monopoly on the market. So they're like the only people that can develop at all down there. And the council, this goes with the council member and the mayor, they both have given them pretty much unchecked power. So they're the preferred developers on everything. What does that mean? That means before anybody, if Nathan wants to go down and do something in over the Rhine, and you want to do something, you might have some capital, 3CDC has to say okay. That's pretty much what goes on now, and I don't think that's okay. And I'm going to seek to change that.
What changes would you be seeking?
Well, first of all, I don't think they should be the preferred developer on all projects. So I would seek to break that up. That's a good place to start.
Okay. And what else would you do?
Again, then I would go to the inclusionary zoning part of the policy I talked about. The third thing I would do is actually implement and incentivize a renter equity program, too. And what that means is, folks, I think people are more likely to want to take care of their property if they get an ownership interest or if they're able to get more money back. So we would incentivize developers to say that if you allow folks to come in and rent and stay for a larger period of time, then you need to return some of that money to them. I actually did a development like this in Avondale on Chalfonte, so I've done the model and I know that it works. But the point with all of this, Nathan, is that you have to have leadership that's willing to hold the developers and folks accountable. These are tax dollars that we all are spending and giving to 3CDC and other developers, and we ought to be included in the process. That's really all I'm saying.
Again, Rob Richardson Jr. is my guest, and he is running for mayor in the city of Cincinnati, and the primary is May 2nd, so get out and vote. Yesterday was the last day to be registered for that primary. Does that mark a change in your campaign at all now that you're just speaking with does that make a difference to you from your position?
I mean, not really. Look, there's a lot of people that are already registered to vote, Nathan, so we're trying to engage as many people as possible to get out to get out here and vote, because it matters it matters in the primary. I know a lot of people are upset about the presidential level, but look, you can have the most impact on the local level. So if you really want to see a change,
absolutely.
If you're really interested in moving your community forward, it's more important who your mayor is than who your president is, actually.
There is I agree with you on that. I mean, I keep telling people the closer you are to what you're voting on makes a bigger impact on you. It's just science. It just makes perfect sense. But here's a question. I'd be remiss if my dudes didn't ask you this. Okay, you're mayor. If you're the mayor, and we know there are huge health disparities in this community, in the city of Cincinnati. You got Cincinnati Health Department. You've also got the Center for Closing the Health Gap. And since the last time we talked, that's kind of blown up a little bit with the council event, the whole 9 yards.
Sure.
If you're mayor, do you continue to fund the Center for Closing the Health Gap?
Well, look, I think the Center for Closing the Healthcare Gap's been around for a long time, and I don't think we would eliminate funding. However, I think we're going to look at what's the best return that we get in order to make sure that we have real measurables for our community. So whatever it is, we're going to judge everything by the same standard. The reason why I don't like how this story played out is not because there's an audit of closing the healthcare gap. I really think it's a failure of leadership if you have to have an audit because that means on the front end you're not doing what you're supposed to do. That means there's been a leadership failure because there should be a clear expectation about how the money is used and what the expectations are on the front end. And second, I think it's very political, right? I don't know. I think if Dwight Tillery was still the mayor's co-chair, would there actually be an audit? Probably not. And there's this. I know that the media and also the mayor wants to point to the fact that there's been some money given to the Black agenda, but I saw nothing. I saw no problem when closing the healthcare gap gave $5,000 to the mayor's political PAC, Cincinnati's PAC, right? So I just think it's a double standard, and I think it's a failure of leadership. So we're going to look at everything from what does it do to help people in the community and what's the best return for taxpayers. That's how we're going to look at every single expenditure across the board.
At the forum, I'm scheduled to speak with the mayor very soon. And when I speak with him, I'm going to challenge him on his commitment to the collaborative. And that was brought up in the forum. And then you made a remark in which you kind of held him accountable, like, well, hey, there. Because when it was brought up, and I think maybe the mayor was kind of touting the fact, he was sort of embracing the collaborative, which is a great thing. But you and I both know that it's not been properly funded.
It hasn't been.
And one of the major, and this is a huge element, and that's the Citizens Complaint Authority, has been underfunded. It doesn't have the proper investigators. As of at least a year ago, they had a backlog that was a year and a half long. So that means that people are getting frustrated, which is part of the reason why it was put in place. And so I'd like to know what the current funding levels are at. Are you aware of what those funding levels are? He seemed to claim that it has returned to its proper funding levels. I'm not sure if that's true because I haven't seen it.
No, it's not true. It's not at its proper funding levels. I couldn't tell you the exact number. I know it's not where it needs to be. And if you talk to anybody that's been involved in the process, they will tell you that. I can't get you the exact figure off the top of my head, but it is not. It's a priority for the mayor because he's running for re-election. Let's be clear about this. It's not a priority because it's something that he's actually paid attention to. So we're going to do that, and it's going to be these are, police community relations are something you have to pay a particular attention to all the time. We didn't get a chance to talk about it, but the firing of Chief Blackwell too was really a failure by this mayor. And it's really about how he did it, because every mayor has the right, essentially, to hire or fire and implement the team that they see that they see fit. The problem is that when he fired Chief Blackwell, he really sought to embarrass him, and I've never seen that done before. Look, we've had to, while at the University of Cincinnati, I've been involved and have been involved with situations where we had to let people go, but we didn't make a public exercise to try to embarrass the people. And that's what this mayor did. And he really did it. And that, I think, really hurt the efforts for police community relations unnecessarily. But he doesn't care about it. For him, it's just a political tool.
Would your police department, like with the Cincinnati Police Department, would it sound any differently under your administration? I mean, what would you direct your police chief to maybe do differently, or maybe an added responsibility in terms of engaging with the community?
Well, they first and foremost understand that engagement is the most important thing we can do, because if there's not engagement between the police and the community, you have nothing. So I would actually change the model to be, as much as we can, to be geared towards community police relations and go towards that mindset. I would also do, I think, under safety, two different things. One, I would also amp up our funding for our witness protection program. Right, we have a program called CROW. Cincinnati citizens respect our witnesses. It's actually a good program that's severely underfunded as well, because you can't expect folks to report people that they may know of, that they know might have committed crimes if they are actually unsafe, right? So no matter what, if your family is exposed, if you're exposed, you're not gonna put yourself out there. So we can't ask people to do that and not actually protect them. So we have to make sure we have a more robust witness protection program, and that means we have to fund it better. Also, we have SERVE, but I would look to use SERVE and actually make sure that actually works with some outreach programs to our youth, and actually work with our universities to give more opportunities for our kids. So while I was chair of the university, and actually before I was chair, while I was vice chair and secretary, I led a program called the UC Scholars Academy, which is actually a boot camp and a leadership development program for kids in our neighbor high schools to make sure that they are able to get exposed to employers, that they're pushed academically, and that more of them can get into UC. So more and more kids that normally didn't get into UC are getting into UC because of that program. I would do more initiatives like that and combine it with some of our efforts, because we need to make sure our kids have access and opportunities, and that actually is the best way to prevent crime.
Rob Richardson Jr. is my guest. So do you have events every night? I mean, how booked is your schedule now as you get closer to the primary?
It's every night, man. It's every single night there's something to do. And if there's not an event, then every single night there's a bunch of calls to make. So it's a grind, man. And but, it's worth it, man. It's because we have too much at stake at our city right now. And so as hard as it can be, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, I drove past I think it's your campaign headquarters on Ludlow.
Yep.
Yeah, I drove past there. Now the signs are up and it seems people are busy, and I see Rob Richardson Jr. and everything. So it seems like things are really getting in full swing. So you're raising money and collecting data and volunteers and all that kind of stuff is going on in the background. Is that correct?
It is.
And what
I think people... Go ahead.
So keep it real, as much as you can, Rob. So you're raising money in the city. Are there ties? Are there expectations with that money? I mean, do you find as you are getting closer to this and you're serious about becoming a mayor, this is a real thing, do you find that you have to, I won't say compromise, but perhaps you have to, make allegiances, do things to get the money that you didn't think that you had to?
I wouldn't say that was the issue. I do think, obviously, some people give money for minimum for access, and they all get that, right? If you give money, people are able to have a conversation with you and talk to you about what they think is important. I think what makes me unique is the fact that I've spent my whole life fighting for people. I've spent my life as a labor attorney and as a labor and employment attorney fighting for people, often against corporations and against folks who have violated them. So I do come from a different worldview from some folks. However, I do think some people obviously give support so they can have their voices heard. For me, it doesn't do as much, but I think I can see how it can influence a lot of people, because if you are in a process and you absolutely need the funds to keep the lights on, and this is a very hard thing to do. It is very hard to run a campaign, and unless you've done it, it's really hard to explain, because it's like a startup. You have to look at every single moment. You got to figure out how to pay your staff, how to keep the lights on, and how you're going to have enough to do it. So that type of pressure can easily influence you. I think I've built a lot of relationships outside of politics, so I've been fortunate for that. It's the benefit of not entering into politics so early. I think when you do it early on in your career, like my opponents have, it's much easier to be dependent upon the regular political folks. And if you're dependent upon particularly a few set of people, it becomes much harder then to actually fight back against the status quo.
If Rob Richardson becomes mayor, do we see some action within your first 4 years on our bus services here in Metro?
Absolutely. I'll tell you exactly what my plan is for that. In my first term, we're going to pass a comprehensive transportation plan that updates our bus system to make sure that people can get to the jobs they need to. I think it's immoral, the state of our transportation system that it is right now. There are 75,000 jobs that people cannot get to. That's unacceptable, and it will change within my first term as mayor. We're also going to begin to have multi-ways to connect our city, including rail, and that can be done, and that will be done, and it's going to be done in my first term. We're going to pass the plan. It's the first thing I'm going to do once I get sworn in as mayor is begin to gather the community together and then get ready to put a plan on the ballot and get it implemented. That's my first order of business.
I mean, that will have a lot to do with the makeup of council as well.
Somewhat. I mean, it's when I become mayor, it's a lot. You have a lot of ability to move people on council when you're mayor. This mayor just chooses to do very small things, but you have a lot of influence. It just depends on how you want to use it. So I'm confident that I can find enough members on council that can get 5 votes to move an agenda forward. I have no doubt about that.
So you're saying your mayor's style will be different. You would use more of the tools of the office to persuade city council members to go your way?
Well, and yeah, absolutely. I think, and I said this at the forum when I was closing, I think we as a community should not mistake access for real power. You know, access is not just about people inviting you to City Hall, saying hello, being nice. It's really about, are you willing to have leadership that can bring people together to organize, to hold City Hall, developers, and institutions accountable? We're going to do that by bringing people together and pushing back against City Hall if they don't want to fight for it. I am very comfortable fighting people, including people in my own party, if they're not willing to do it, and we will get it done.
Rob Richardson Jr. is my guest. You know, I just want to go back to real quick before we break here, Rob, and I appreciate your time this morning. And that is just to those health disparities. I really believe that is a real issue. We talk about affordable housing and we talk about all these different issues. That's a real issue in our community. And I'm just concerned that maybe the resources aren't really being applied properly to deal with those issues because it's been politicized or it's just on the back burner. And I just want to make sure I understand. You're saying your administration, that'll be a focus.
Absolutely. I mean, it'll be a focus, and I think I'll be able to leverage more institutions that others can't. I think I could leverage UC Health. I have relationships there. There are resources out there. We just have to have leadership that has the priority and that will focus on it. But the health disparities are absolutely real, and they're tied to other things, Nathan. They're tied to the things I said earlier. They're tied to where you live. They're tied to the ability to get jobs so you can have access to good health care. All that stuff is tied together.
Yeah. And I do know there's some existing relationships there with UEC Health and the good folks over the Center for Closing Health Gap. But that's a huge issue. That is a huge issue. And that's dealing with our city. There's a lot of issues. Some get glossed over. Some get more focus because of whatever reason. But again, conventional wisdom would say that it'll probably be either you or Yvette. And again, anything can happen. I don't close the door on any possibility, but conventional wisdom would say it'll be the incumbent and one of the challengers. So I'll ask you again, and again, keep in mind, and you know this, Yvette's been on council for 5 years. So a lot of people are saying she's got this experience. Nearly 6. Why you over Yvette Simpson?
Well, look, I tell people I don't think people, Nathan, are going to judge your ability to lead by the time you've been in politics or on City Hall, but really it's about your ability to get things accomplished, your ability to set a vision, and really bring people together. So I think I'm the most qualified by both Cranley and Yvette because I have the most leadership experience, and I've actually gotten things accomplished, and I won't be beholden to the same people that they are. While at the University of Cincinnati, I helped lead and manage over $1 billion budget. In terms of African Americans, I raised money for the largest scholarship we've ever had for African American and minority engineers. The African American Cultural Resource Center was expanded twice under my term while I was on the board, and the retention and graduation rate for African Americans during my term on the board was the highest in history. So I've had a long history of actually getting things accomplished. Mm-hmm. And I know how to do it in really difficult circumstances. I became chair and did all that with 8 Republicans being on my board. So I have a long history of fighting and actually being effective when I fight. I think when you look at the council member, again, she sponsored the least amount of ordinances out of almost any other council member, period. And she also, I think, talks and argues against the mayor quite a bit. But she's voted for every budget. I mean, how can you talk about all his budgets and you vote for them? I guess I just don't understand that. That's how politics works at City Hall. I'm a person that's going to fight, and I think at this time, it's not about saying she's a bad person or anything. When you're looking for a leader, it's about the right leader at the right time. For where we're at right now in the city of Cincinnati, I'm the right leader at the right time, and I'm going to continue to fight for systemic reform and make sure that all our kids and families have access to great jobs. They have access to a great education. And I want to say this: if you feel like your kids have access to a great education, if you feel like development has been inclusive in the way you think it should be, if you feel like your neighborhoods are as safe as they should be, then you should vote for either one of my opponents. But if you think we can do better and you're ready to see a Cincinnati that really does expand opportunities for others, then I would say vote for me.
Rob Richardson is my guest. Rob, as you were talking, one thing jumped in my head that I have to ask you, and that is, and you just brought this up, how long were you on the board of trustees at UC?
I was on the board for 9 years.
You was on the board for 9 years. And how long were you the chairman?
I was the chairman for a little under a year. I was an officer for 5 years, and I was also chair of the Academic and Student Affairs Committee for 7 years. Okay.
And, I remember Yvette brought this up. I thought it was a fair question, and I want to get your response to it. She brought up the fact that while you were at UC, that whole thing went down with the UC Police Department, and it was clear that there was very little oversight. It was clear that there were things that were put in place that shouldn't have been put in place. And we know this because after the Ray Tensing trial, you led the changes, some reforms.
I did. Correct.
But the question still remains is that you were there when the police chief, who was later fired or he left, was there. Ray Tensing was hired. He was there. And so it begs the question, why weren't these things put in place beforehand? Why did it take the death of Sam DuBose?
Well, first of all, if you look at it, I tell people in my response to her, because I thought it was I think she said that this is exactly what she said. Let's make sure we make it clear that she wasn't, no African-American man had died under her watch while she was on council, right? I think that's what she said, right?
Right.
Am I correct?
Something along those lines, right?
Right. So let's make this clear. We did have body cameras, okay? And had we not had body cameras, we wouldn't have known what had happened. So that's an important tool we had in place. I want to make it clear the city of Cincinnati did not have it until recently. And there have been some deaths that had been questionable that we don't know what happened. So I can flip the same question back on her to say, okay, why didn't you ask for any policy to make sure that we have body cameras for our policemen, okay? Why didn't that happen if this was such an important issue? I don't think she sponsored one ordinance on it, okay? I also think that it's a little unfair to blame someone who's on the board as a volunteer for managing the police force, because you don't manage the police force. What you do is respond when you know that there are issues, and no one had any appreciation for how bad things were, for how quickly they got there until we got to that point. That all happened, literally, the ramp up of the police force all happened in a matter of about a year. Our police force was doubled in size, and you were absolutely correct that the proper reforms weren't put in place. Once that happened, though, I think you should judge my leadership not by what happened, but how we actually responded to the crisis. And what we did is actually implement real reform.
Yes and no. In no way am I trying to lay this all on your footsteps, because I think that would be unfair. But I think the question is fair in terms of there were a lot of high-profile shootings around the country. And what I've been saying from day one is that if I was in a position of leadership where I had a law enforcement agency that I had any influence on, when I hear or see about shootings happening around the country, I want a review of what we're doing, our policies, before it happens. And so I think that was the gist of what her question was.
No, it was. She said that, she hadn't been responsible for any deaths. That's what she said. That's a little different from what you just said.
No, it's the same thing, Rob. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's the same thing.
Yeah, what she's saying essentially is she's challenging your leadership.
Well, what I'm saying is,
and she said, let me get it out before you tell me.
Hold on, I'm going to answer your question.
Hold on, Rob. Let me get it out before you tell me. What she said, I want to make sure I'm very clear about this and we're having the same conversation. What I perceived that she was saying was it was a question of your leadership. And what she's saying is, why, if you're this great leader, then great leaders have foresight. Why wasn't the stopgaps and reforms put in place before Ray Tensing was able to do this? Because from what I understand, it was glaring. Any person who would have just reviewed his stops, the nature of them, could have seen it was a red flag. And that's what she was trying to get to.
Well, she didn't say that, okay, by the way. But I think that's an interpretation of what she said.
Okay, well, I'm saying
to get to what you said, I'm going to answer your question. And then to get to what you said, I don't think any leader is psychic. Like, there's no way I am, as the chairman of the board, as a board member, okay, we hire a president. The president hires folks, and then they hire folks over them. I did insist I did, and I do, and I still do, and I insisted that they had to have these reforms. I did everything you said. That doesn't mean that they actually implemented it, okay? And we found out they did, and this is why they're gone. And those people aren't there anymore. We had an African-American police chief before this current police chief, and some of these problems still happen. So the fact is, you can push and push and push. It doesn't mean that they actually implemented, and when we found out that they weren't, they were actually removed. So you can say, and all this happened in the course of a year, over a very short period of time, because the issues happened really, really quickly. The ramp up happened, and then these issues happened, and I did take action. So there's a lot of people that don't ever take action, and I would do the reverse. When has she ever taken action on the issue? Also,
and again, I had a
long career doing this at the NAACP. Look, I founded the UC chapter of the NAACP and held the city accountable. I have fought for change. My record speaks for itself. So to say that I didn't care about the issue, I didn't fight for it, is just not accurate.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that either. Again, I don't think it's fair to put it all on your doorstep. But I do think when we're talking about leadership,
and imagine if I wasn't there. Okay, do you think the reforms would have happened? I tell people to compare me to the alternative, not the almighty. If I wasn't chair there, do you think they would have pushed for those reforms that happened?
Well, did you get any pushback when you brought up those reforms?
Of course I did. You always get pushback.
What were those? So was there some heated or very involved, impassioned discussions?
Absolutely. I mean, when you're dealing with race and you're dealing with police, of course there's always tense conversations. There's always pushback. But I made it clear, like, this wasn't made up. Like, I've been racially profiled. I made it clear that why we should talk about Black Lives Mattering. When you talk about, when you say you want to fight for cancer, people don't say, what about AIDS? If you say you love your son, people don't say, what about your daughter? And when you say Black Lives Matter, your response shouldn't be, well, what about everyone else? It's a plea for help. And the fact is, our lives aren't valued as much. I said that at a meeting out loud in front of 8 Republicans. Now, maybe Ms. Simpson has done that before that I don't know about, and we implemented the policies and reforms. So I will be judged by that and what I've done.
What was the response when you said that? I wish I was a fly on the wall. I would have loved to see that. What was the response?
That was actually said in public. I mean, the response was kind of like, people were a little shocked, and no one said anything. But I'm a big believer that when you have the opportunity to lead, you lead. And when I've had the opportunity, I've led. And I did it. I didn't wait till I became chair. I continuously challenge us to be a better institution, to be more inclusive. And there was always some resistance, but at the end of the day, I was there and I had a seat at the table, but I made sure it wasn't just about me. Because when you're a trustee, I want to make this clear, Nathan, like, you're not paid. It's a volunteer position. You're in a position of power that you are volunteering for, right? I didn't get any staff. So everything I was doing, I was fighting for, but it was just me.
That's interesting. That's difficult. I bet you could speak a lot about just the difficulties, as of course anyone could in a position of leadership, being African American in a position like that. I bet you came up against a lot of forces who either thought you were being too black or not black enough. Is that correct?
That's always the problem, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. And no matter what you can do, no matter what, you can never appease folks. But this is why I'm always consistent with who I am. Whether you agree or disagree with me, the same way I'm having this conversation with you is the same conversation I have with my trustees. But I think some of them got to respect me because they know that my positions didn't change. I mean, I'm consistent. I fight for what I believe in, and I'm not going to change that.
Well, Rob, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I wish you the best, man, and good luck on everything, and we'll catch up.
Thank you, Nathan. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. That's Bye. Rob Richardson, Jr. And again, he is running for mayor in the city of Cincinnati. And he's a brother from the city with local ties. As you heard, we talked about some of his experiences. And the primary is coming up on May 2nd. If you are not already registered, sadly, you're going to have to sit this one out. You can still get registered for the general election. So that should be your focus. So I'm speaking to my registered voters in the city of Cincinnati. I know there's many of you out there. And again, you've had another opportunity to hear from Mr. Rob Richardson, Jr. And to be fair, I'm going to reach out to Miss Yvette Simpson, and I'll offer the same amount of time to the mayor as well. And, you know, I want to hear from all people. I want to hear from all the sides. And, you know, I'm not afraid to ask questions. I don't think they're tough questions at all. I'm not really a gotcha question kind of dude. I just really ask the questions that I think people want to hear. And if there are some issues on the table and people have questions about them, I ask those questions. And that's it. And I think that for some of you who may think, oh, Nate, it's not his fault. He was the board of trustee. I think it's a legitimate question. As I told you, leadership is supposed to have. Nobody is psychic. I'm not asking you to be psychic. What I'm asking you to be as a leader, and I'm saying it to Mr. Rob Richardson Jr. in particular, although I am talking about that scenario, I'm talking about the leadership in general, is to be logical. To be logical. And I said this before Sam DuBose, because it's my general position. If you are a police chief or a mayor or a board chair, if you in any way or have any control over people that are security guards, people that in any way can detain individuals, you should be doing a review of your policy. When you turn on the nightly news and you hear about a terrible shooting or some shooting in another city, that's an opportunity for you to say, you know what? What's our policy? That's logical. That's what leadership does. Period. That's why they're leadership. If you're not doing that, what in the hell do we need you for? Get a mop and hit that floor like everybody else. That's what leadership is supposed to do. Just think. That's a logical conclusion. If I'm the mayor of Cincinnati and we've never had any high profile incidences of police abuse, I'm giving you a hypothetical, or alleged police use of force and misconduct, and you turn on the nightly news and you hear about all these different places. You hear about what's happening in Cleveland, and you hear about Tamir Rice. You hear about Beaver Creek. You hear about John Crawford. You hear about what happened in these different places around the country and how people reacted. And then you find out that they don't have a suitable use of force policy. That's a wake-up call for you to review your policy. What the hell? I mean, at some point, I don't have to touch the stove to know it's hot. I know already. But again, if you missed that forum, it was very interesting. It got very heated in some incidences. And as I said, I've got a few questions for the mayor. Okay, we're going to embrace the collaborative. You love the collaborative? Well, then what are the current funding levels? And I'll give Rob a pass. He said he doesn't know the funding levels. Okay, great. You're not the mayor. The mayor should know. If you love the collaborative so much, you just hug the collaborative and it's like a warm pillow, then you should know if it's being properly funded. And that complaint authority, I think, is so key because it allows citizens to feel like their voices are being heard. And that's part of the reason why we had the social unrest, aka the riots, back in 2000, 2001. That's why. That was part of it. People felt as if there was so much pressure building up. There was no ways to release it that was productive and flat out. What did Dr. King say? Who, by the way, this is a grisly anniversary of his assassination. I want to get your thoughts on Mr. Rob Richardson Jr.'s flow. I want to get your thoughts on anything we've been discussing so far this morning. I want to get your thoughts. Answer this question for me. This is an anniversary question. If Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had not have been assassinated, would this country be any different? He was leading a people's campaign, right? Would he have won? Would it have actually changed anything in this country? I don't know. But I want to discuss it with you right here, right now. This is the Nathan Ivey Show.
Report. I'm Donna Wilson. Thousands of workers fighting for a $15 an hour wage and union rights will join the movement for Black Lives in a 24-city protest today, April 4th, the 49th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King's assassination and the 50th anniversary of the civil rights icon's historic Beyond Vietnam speech. The coast-to-coast protest will consist of thousands of workers, national civil rights leaders, and politicians. Well, ratings agency Standard & Poor's has downgraded South Africa's credit grade to junk status. The action is in response to South Africa's president's firing of his finance minister. The downgrade could be a further blow to South Africa's economy, which is growing at the slowest pace since 2009 and dealing with 27% unemployment.
Hey, remember a couple of years ago when we thought we'd save some money with do-it-yourself window coverings?
Unfortunately, yes. I measured.
I ordered.
We both installed. What a disaster.
All the way around. And we're pretty good at do-it-yourself. But obviously, window coverings really call for a pro.
A pro from Budget Blinds.
They're the do-it-for-me people. They bring the store to you, come in and measure, then install it all.
And that style and service for every budget thing they talk about, turns out it's for real.
Right. Budget Blinds has no surprises pricing and a no questions asked warranty. The best in the business.
That's a no-brainer.
And this spring, you could get up to $500 off on Signature Series window coverings.
Save money and your dignity. Call 855-BUDGET-BLINDS.
Or go online to budgetblinds.com.
855-BUDGET-BLINDS or budgetblinds.com. Forget do-it-yourself.
This is the Nathan Ivey Show. Get ready to be engaged. Get ready to be informed. Get ready to be a lion. Get ready to be enraged by the man City Beat Magazine called a talk radio rebel. And your host. Now back to the show.
Derek from Facebook writes, Rob Richardson is not responsible for the Ray Tensing shooting. I think it's unfair to hound him on this matter, considering that Yvette Simpson has sat on city council for 6 years and numerous black people are dead and were killed by the CPD. She has done nothing policy-wise on this. That's Derek from Facebook. Now, let me catch up. A lot of people saying good things about Mr. Rob Richardson. Jordan writes, does Cranley donate his salary back to the city? James writes, how can you foresee something like Cameo happening? Please explain. Derek writes, wow, non-paid, no team, constant struggle for change. Now that's leadership. But Jordan writes, Ray Tensing nor any other UC police officer should be policing non-UC campus areas. It's a damn good, Gary, you're right about that. Mila J writes, I agree, it wasn't on him to micromanage the police department. Well, then what is your job? If you're a trustee member, you got to have some sway over the organization. Derek writes, great vision. The city needs a mayor with a great vision. Go Rob. Okay, Derek Cooper. With no avatar photograph, Derek Cooper. Okay. Kiki writes, have a great and safe day. Gotta go. One love. Adele writes, he has a point. Good answer, Rob. Ann writes, will Rob empower poverty parents for job readiness programs? Oh, man. I didn't see your question here, Carolyn. What about jobs for the youth? Ann writes, who mismanaged funds at the health gap? Good question, if that's in fact what happened. QC writes, great interview. Rob sounded solid. Pat writes, good interview. James writes, Brian, I like all of your comments. I feel the love inside the chop shop this morning. I feel the love. Feel the love. How do you feel about a $15 per hour wage increase? Or a $15 per hour salary? And did you hear that piece, the news piece in which Black Lives Matter is now hooking up with the people? Is it Fight for 15? There's a website, fightfor15.org. And I'll be honest with you, as somebody who does fast food very rarely, every once in a while, don't judge me. Do my closet eating in the closet so people won't judge me. I don't come into your house and judge you about what you're eating. Don't judge me. But $15 per hour, I have no problem with it because I really solidly believe that the fast food service industry would get better at service and hospitality if people were getting paid more. I'm a big believer in unions. I know business owners, pro-business people don't like unions because that means you're costing us money. But in terms of what's best for workers, it's union membership, union protection. I have a family member who recently got a job that is connected to a union, right? And as one of the things that's associated with this job is you've got to wear these special boots when you're like on the floor of the facility. You got to wear these special boots, and the boots are $100. But because the job is a union job, guess what? They pay for it for her, up front so she could get started. Because you got to ask yourself, How many people that are looking for a job can afford to spend $100 on some work boots before they even get a check? I don't know about you, but when I was getting jobs, I needed that first check. And think about that. I mean, if you took it, let's say you're looking for a job and they say, hey, you got the job, but you got to have these special boots made from a special manufacturer because of just the way we have our insurance and our union. And they cost $100. A lot of people would not be able to take the job because they can't afford the boots. But because this job is associated with a union, my family member was able to get the boots with no money out of the pocket. We should all be so lucky to have union membership, union protection in your respective jobs. You probably make more money. You probably have less stress on your job because you wouldn't feel like if you say the wrong thing to the guy with the big office or the gal with the big office, you're going to lose your job because this is an at-will state in Ohio. I mean, literally, they can walk in and say, you know what? Nah, here's your severance if you get a severance. And that comes with a bit of stress. Folks in unions are not worried about that. You know, that's not going to happen to them. Guaranteed vacation, guaranteed retirement. It's what American workers deserve. You deserve it. You deserve it. So I think there's a way for workers to be better protected and to make sure that they're getting raises that mean something. I remember working in fast food. I worked there for a year. I'm coming up for review. Oh, I'm all excited about my review and get a damn dime. You can kiss my ass with this dime. I remember this. I'm all happy. I want a quarter because that's the most you can get. And a quarter? You can take that quarter and you know what you can do with that quarter. Walking out looking at it like, I got a dime? Because I'm not worth a quarter raise. Please, American workers are underpaid. You're being exploited by the people at the top, and that's what it comes down to. There's plenty of money out here, but people are greedy. You got to have a home on the West Coast and the East Coast. Oops, got to have a home in Mexico. Oops, got to have a home in Europe. Oops, got to have a home in Australia. Oops, got to have a home in Russia. I got to have a lot of homes. I need 1,000 cars. It's greed. There's plenty in this country for us. American workers are super, super productive, but they're not getting the money. Somebody's getting it. But let's go back to the phones. Caller, how are you? Good morning.
Morning, Nathan Ivy and the Choppers. This is B.
What up, B?
How you doing?
Doing great. B, can I ask you a question?
Good. Yeah.
Why do you refuse to put a space between the M and the I'm
just being efficient with the space.
You're just being efficient. Okay. I knew there was a reason because it just seemed to be too premeditated. It's just too easy to hit the space bar. And so the fact that you weren't, I figured it was done purposely. But okay, that's all good. Well, good morning to you, B. What's on your mind?
Mystery's over, right?
Mystery is over.
It was a good interview that you had with Rob. I enjoyed hearing that night.
Oh yeah, he was a good sport, and he held his own.
Yeah, and I like what you said about not being tainted by not getting involved in politics too early. So we'll see. Wanted to respond to your question about would we think the country would be a different place if Martin Luther King would not have been assassinated.
Right. What's your take on it?
I think it would be in a good way. Hopefully, assuming that had he not been assassinated and if he was still alive, and assuming that he did not change, from being a public figure for so long, I think so, because I don't feel like there's a leadership now. Like, he galvanized and he moved a lot of people during his time, and since that generation and since that era, him, Malcolm X, Ali, we really haven't seen leaders of that caliber since then. So I definitely think that, if he was still around, he was still, carrying the same message and moving people the way he did back then.
Well,
I think that
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think it would be a better place.
with him a lot. I mean, you know, with good people are having a positive impact, then their influence when they're gone is definitely going to have an impact. So it's going to leave a weight. Right. It's going to leave a void. So I agree with you on that one. John Potash, who wrote a book about Tupac, but his grander theory is that elements inside the government are assassinating people that threaten the current power structure. And he even included Dr. King and Tupac. And,
you know,
he may be onto something.
I agree. I mean, if you really think about it, it's, you know, they're public figures, but that's just an example of what we've been seeing here for the past, you know, couple of years. Black folks get shot, nothing happens. They were black folks, they got shot, nothing happened, you know? So, not, you know, it's not hard to think, you know, it's not hard to consider that. You know, those elements may have been at play, so.
Well, I mean, what about Malcolm X?
Not that much has changed, really.
What if Martin and Malcolm had survived? Let's say they were men in their in their 80s and 90s now. Think about the influence they could have both had together. You know, in a positive way. What about the various members of the Black Panther Party if they weren't corralled and arrested and killed in some cases? Intimidated. What about the impact they could have had? I mean, it seems like there's something to that. There's a lot of powerful individuals or people who've had these powerful platforms over the years that have died mysteriously or assassinated or they're in jail or they're just missing, you know? So I think there's more to it there than the media and most people are willing to really spend time thinking about.
Right. But we live, you know, I've always said that we live in a information generation where information and knowledge is very easy to get, you know, with free internet nowadays. You know, not sure how much longer it's going to be free for, but a lot of people can do their own research, you know, if they're inclined to do so, and find out, you know, what really went on, instead of just blindly listening to what the TV tells them or what the media propaganda is telling them. So people can do their research and try, you know, come to their own conclusions.
All right, B, thanks for the call, man.
All right, you have a good day.
You too, B. AKA Jamal. There's no more mystery. I understand now. And wow, folks. All I can say is this. You know, we could talk about the assassination of Martin Luther King, but what I don't want to do is leave you with the sense that all is lost and doom and gloom, because I don't really believe that. I think that there's a lot of things that can be done in our community, and some of them are political in nature. Some of them are, you know, getting out and actually, you know, getting your hands dirty, so to speak. But I think brighter days are ahead of us in the city of Cincinnati if we can come together. And I think part of that is choosing proper individuals to lead us and make these critical decisions about policy and the direction of resources and what the priorities are going to be. And that's why I'm spending so much time on city council and the mayor elections, because they're huge. They're absolutely huge. I agree with Rob Richardson on many things, but on one thing, we definitely agree, and that is that in some ways, who your mayor is more important than who the president is. And it's very simple why. It's because the closer you are to where you live and where you do business and where you raise your kids, the closer that is, right, these institution of influence, we'll call it City Hall, the closer it is to where you live, the closer the impact is, the faster the impact. Makes sense to me. Thank you so much for your time. This show will be made available as a podcast within the hour. And hopefully I'll have more good news to share with you later tomorrow. Again, I want to welcome in the good folks from Park Place Restaurant. And you'll hear their advertisement tomorrow. I'll be reading it in and out of the breaks. And they are supporters of the Nathan Ivey Show. And again, one surefire way to support my show is to support us by supporting our sponsors and advertisers. But I'll give you more details tomorrow. Thank you so much for listening. This show has been brought to you by the good folks at Superlative Media. They do great work. And shout out to my friends at soulpublicradio.com. and my new friends, the X Squad affiliates. A shout out to Team and I, to my patrons and the Choppers. I appreciate you. And many thanks to Rob Richardson Jr. for his time this morning. It sounded great. And I'll make sure we put this up on the website as a podcast. You can listen to it at your leisure, download it, and share it with your friends and family members. And let them know, Nathan had a real conversation with Rob Richardson. And very interesting. So I'll make that available to you later on today. Thank you so much for your time. And I'll be back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Remember this, respect the architect. Never test the creator. Until next time, I'm Nathan Ivey, and I'm out.